She realized her father was abusing humanity by utilizing his computer. She must find 6 additional apostles and write the New Testament to save humanity. Will her mission be successful, or will her father find out and ruin it? At the movie's beginning, Ia, a 10-year-old daughter of God, reveals that her father is violent to her, but not to his brother. He was an all-knowing but violent God who made Brussels because he was bored, and this was before the world was made.
It's fascinating to think that God is in a human form, living in a small apartment in Brussels, which he made out of boredom.
He created animals such as chickens, giraffes, tigers, and lions, which he let roam freely on the streets, but that wasn't enough to satisfy him. Therefore, he created a human being after his own likeness. He liked what he saw. While Adam was off discovering the world, God introduced him to Eve, his second human creation. From that point on, humanity began to expand rapidly.
Unfortunately, he was a terrible god, and he caused the war in his honor. As far as everyone knows, this god is a loving yet just god. It's hard to think of him as being cruel to humans, more so intentionally.
Ia describes her early life in an apartment that has no doorways. Instead, it's a 3-bedroom home with a laundry room, kitchen, and her father's private office that no one is permitted to enter. She then presents her silent, miserable mother. Both embroidery and basketball are her 2 favorite hobbies. Her father never left their flat, never did anything to improve their situation, and never helped out. All he did was create man as a toy for his happiness. One night, Ia snuck into her father's office. In doing so, she saw how vicious her father is and how he uses that cruelty to control other people. She challenged her father regarding his human cruelty. He was angry at her for breaking into his office, so he hit her with the belt. She returned to her room and began plotting ways to make him miserable. She made a decision that ultimately led to her demise. In addition to this strategy, she must also have a way out of the flat. Ia put a notebook and a pen in her bag and called out to her brother, JC, who was a statue at the top of her closet. She pleaded for assistance in escaping the house. When asked for advice on selecting his apostles, JC told her to trust her instincts and assemble a team of 6 because 12 had proven too many for him to manage. Then he told her to do a small enough miracle for her to handle. He had to convince that she needed to compose the New Testament with the apostles she had collected and that it needed to be about them. She said she couldn't write, so he told her to give it to someone who could. After that, he detailed his escape through the washing machine. Before she left, JC told her to remember that God is nothing without his computer. She then proceeds to the living room where God is sleeping peacefully and steals the office key. Then she opens one of the archives and selects 6 cards, looks up the information on the computer, and decides to broadcast all the death dates to the portable telephones of every person on Earth.
She remembered what JC had told her and was wise enough to ensure that her father would be powerless after she was gone. Good job there, Ia.
Ia decided to lock down the computer and say goodbye to JC before going to the washing machine. She put it on JC's recommended setting and took off. Due to her young age, she could squeeze through the tiny exit and continue her journey. The news that people have been given their death dates was aired worldwide. Those with only days to live were horrified by the information, and the broadcast suggested it might have been fake. God awoke from a deep sleep when the report was carried on all channels. As soon as he saw that, he knew his system had been hacked. He looked for the key on his belt but couldn't find it. He stormed into his office, slammed the door, and rushed straight to his computer in a rage. He found it was locked. This made him even more upset, and he slammed the door to Ia's room, but she was not there. As he searched for him, he observed the washing machine door open and the opening Ia had made. He shouted, but Ia was too far away to hear him. It started to rain when Ia left the shop where the washing machine was connected. She walked across the street and retrieved a hamburger from the garbage. After eating it, she felt sick, and a homeless man saw her and told her that she had accidentally eaten a fish burger with whale meat. She asked him if he knew how to write, and he said he did, but he had dyslexia. He didn't like it when Ia followed him, but he eventually gave in. His name is Victor. His skin is like an ancient serpent, and he smells like a combination of salt, garlic, and lemon, according to her description. She thinks he would be a great father. On the other hand, God felt helpless because he knew he couldn't torture people anymore without his computer. He had no choice but to go to the passage Ia had made. Even though his size made it difficult, he finally managed to grunt through the opening. Ia had made it to the first apostle's residence. Aurelie is a gorgeous girl who lives by herself. She's a stunning blonde, the object of lust for countless men and the envy of countless women. They visited the train station where Aurelie had her accident and told them about the man who had come to her and informed her that life is like a skating rink and that many people fall. She has never forgotten their words. Ia and Victor continued their journey to look for her second disciple. His name is Jean-Claude, and he is a simple employee who hates his life and job. When he realized he was going to die, he decided to sit on a bench overlooking the lake and never move again. She sat beside him and asked personal questions, to which he answered nonchalantly, then went on to talk about the bird. Ia shows that she she can talk to animals and asks the birds questions that Jean-Claude has for them. As a result, he decides to go on an adventure and follow a group of birds. God, meanwhile, made it to the other end of the washer, but couldn't escape until the spin cycle was complete. He approached a sitting woman and asked her a question, but she responded by pepper spraying him.
He got angry and left the laundry shop. When he went outside, it started to rain. Too bad this is the start of God's suffering. He'll now experience the treatment he gave humanity for years.
He decided to search among the rubbish in the same area that Ia has, but was brutally attacked by a gang of men. Because of his injuries, he was sent to the hospital. When the doctor tried to help him, he pushed and cursed at the doctor because he wouldn't give him morphine. Ia located Mark, a third apostle, a sexually unsatisfied man, often referred to as a sex maniac. He was still in love with a German girl in a turquoise bikini who he met at the beach when he was a boy. Even if new people entered his life, he was always drawn back to the German girl. Ia pushed him to utilize his lovely voice, thus he started working as a voice actor for pornographic films. Then it clicked, the German girl that he'd met on the beach when he was 11 is actually his female co-worker who speaks terrible French. They end up going to his house and sharing a bed. Once God arrived at the church, he noticed a long line of people waiting for free meals. He got in line with them, but noticed that another line was moving more quickly and attempted to cut into it, but a man noticed. He grabbed him and instructed him to get in line. He did so for a short period of time before cutting in front of the line, taking a spoonful of food and walking to the front, where he was promptly beaten up by the same man who had seen him do so. A man in charge of food distribution ended the violence and fed him. His name is Ludovic, and he was kind to him, but God told him about his hard life and all the bad things that happened to him. And if that wasn't bad enough, he also joked about his terrible existence and made fun of JC.
Ludovic was angry enough to attack him, and his churchgoers eventually had to intervene to keep the two apart. Apparently, God isn't just cruel, but unreasonably mean. He deserves every punch that was given to him.
The fourth apostle was named Francois. He called himself the assassin because he liked death and funerals so much. When he found out the day he would die, he decided to get a sniper and start randomly shooting people. EA approached him and ordered him to kill the blonde female who would be passing by in 6 seconds. In those 6 seconds, he aimed at a blonde female, but she proceeded unharmed. EA urged him to follow her. He followed Aurélie, the blonde girl he shot, but chickened out. He realized they had the same music in them, so he went to her apartment the next day and confessed to her on the elevator, but it was rejected. Martine is the fifth, a woman stuck in an unhappy marriage. As she and her husband have grown apart, she now spends her days shopping and engaging in other hobbies. Ultimately, she gave in to Ia's pressure and had sex with a male prostitute. She develops romantic feelings for a gorilla. Martine's husband returned from a business trip to find her cuddling with a gorilla in bed. His rage has no effect since the gorilla chased him out of the house.
Being in love with a gorilla is a peculiar but impossible scene if correlated to reality. God, meanwhile, realized that the way back to his apartment was closed and that he was stuck in the outside world with no power.
While looking for Ia, he saw her and Victor strolling along the riverbank. God tried to catch them, but Ia escaped by walking on water. She called Victor and they left together. God followed after them, but he drowned when he tried to cross the river. He was found by some men who beat him and dried him out so he could be sent back to Uzbekistan. Ia introduced the last apostle who would finish her mission. Willie, a sickly boy, found out that he only had weeks to live because of his cancer, so he decided to live as a girl. As he neared the end of his life, Ia urged him to treasure each moment. It was a difficult choice, but Willie's parents allowed him to live it during his final days on Earth. All the apostles heard Willie and Ia talking about how Willie wanted to die by the sea, so they all decided to help. Only a week remained, so they made some big decisions. While Aurélie begged Francois to stop killing people, Martine got her life in order, Mark and the German girl had their first sexual encounter, Jean reached the Arctic Circle, and Willie and Ia spent a week together, treating each day as if it was their last. And God was sent to Uzbekistan because he had no legal papers. On Sunday, they went to the beach in hopes of dying there. They sat in the sand and waited to die. Victor read a few lines from the New Testament he had just written while they all waited. God's airplane experienced a sudden mechanical failure, and they are now en route to the coast where Ia and the apostles are waiting. As soon as the plane starts going downhill, everyone on board starts to get scared. Ia's mother was cleaning the house when she decided to clean her husband's office as well. She unplugged the computer without realizing so she could clean the floor. The computer restarted after she plugged it back in. On the screen, she saw a prompt asking if she wanted to restart the computer. She clicked a few buttons and the computer reprogrammed itself, bringing the plane back to its proper altitude. As Ia's mother coded a new beginning for humanity, all human mobile devices restarted and all death dates were wiped clean. Ultimately, the New Testament that Victor wrote became quite popular and made him rich. Everyone had a happily ever after. Martine and the gorilla had a baby, Francois became pregnant, Willie and Ia kissed, and so on. God worked in a washing machine factory in Uzbekistan where he was continuously looking for the right washing machine to transport him back to his apartment.
This film was a mixture of reality and fantasy, which was pretty enjoyable to watch, as it didn't just highlight how kind deeds would affect everyone on the planet, but also gave a lesson that what you do to others comes back to you. This movie will leave you thinking about its ending for a little while. Please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload. Also, let us know what movies you want us to recap in the future in the comments down below.